Yeah.
Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Let's rock and roll then.
Right. Okay. Wonderful, sir. How are you feeling this morning?
Feeling great, Sridhar. Very excited to be talking to you and then taking your ambitious project to another stage.
I believe you met Suguna.
I meet her every day. No, we walk on the beach together. I mean, we meet up on the beach. So
right.
Every other day we meet her, or Chandar is now a rarity. He's working from home, but like I told you, we go back several years. And when my sister was with S.H. Benson.
Right. Okay, so I'll start recording.
Recording is on already.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. So thanks very much, Rags, for being with me this afternoon, this morning. And I'm actually looking forward to this. I must tell you something. After the last conversation that we had, very preliminary conversation, my mind went on a wild trip. You have triggered so many interesting new thoughts and so many ways of doing things. It's really exciting to be with you this morning. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. Okay?
Thank you very much. The feeling is mutual.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. Rags, I went through your profile. Okay. I'm sort of overwhelmed by what I have seen and read. How have you packed so much into your life, boss? What is the secret?
It is, I suppose, an inborn penchant to keep learning new things. I was born into this world like everyone else. I went to a normal conventional schooling, but then schooling was mere formality. There are so many things which I learned outside of school, so many things which was self-taught to me. And I realized I was discovering a whole new vistas apart from textbooks and marks and exams and so on and so forth, which Mark Twain once said he never permitted schooling to interfere with his education.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, so schooling is something, education is something. So
very nice.
I am self-taught on many fronts, and I am of the firm opinion, which is what I teach my students to. Learning is a constant experience. Today, I will learn something small, subtlety or a nuance which I did not know yesterday, right? And it rolls over to the next day. So every day, you and I are learning something new. For example, you learned something about Zoom today, just like that. So it is learning is a constant experience, except I went wild. I am not here to prove a point. I'm a very unassuming person, very low key. This is the first time somebody's even taken me in all these years, brought me to this pedestal where they want to record me and talk about my interests. It has never happened before. My friends all know me, my relatives all know me. They know I've got multiple talents and interests, but they probably take me for granted. Oh, Rags is always doing this, that, and so on and so forth. But I must thank you for bringing this to a completely new vista. So to start with, I learned a whole lot of things which was not there at school. Schools weren't even aware that they had to teach children this. And this is the way education should be. It should be self-directed education. Children should learn new stuff on their own. Your school and all that is just a formality. I may be, during this conversation, maybe looking down upon schools, but simply because they stuffed algebra down my throat, they stuffed Sanskrit down my throat. For what? For nothing. Do I ever use algebra today? No. Math, yes. Math, yes. I was very interested in math. Is a lifelong learning thing. We always use math for our daily function, right? English, yes, we communicate in English, right? Trigonometry, no, unless you had something called an engineering bent of mind, you went in that direction. But biology, all that was there. But whoever wanted to learn algebra, so it was like that. So I could have spent a whole lot of learned a whole lot of new topics in that 1 hour of algebra classes. Anyway, coming back to this, school was merely a formality. And I picked up a lot of interest along the way and kept them all on parallel fronts. I never let one interest die down. So if today I picked up my guitar, tomorrow I'll pick up my camera. Then day after I'll be cleaning my watches. Day 4 I'll be doing something else. So it's always alive. And I teach this to my students as well. Those children who have taught at the school, that to learn new frontiers, new vistas. Because as you grow older, all these things will come in very useful.
Yeah.
So we will go interest by interest, but I think I have answered your question.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that the big message that I'm getting from you is the student for life. I really, really love that. Absolutely. So I just want to check with you. After having heard you on this one, I'm not able to guess your age. How old might you be, if I might ask?
I am 67, Sridhar.
Okay.
On the 18th of February, 10 days from now, I'll be 68. That's my birthday, 18th February.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
I'm 68 years young.
Okay. So tell me a little about your childhood, parents, early education. I think there must be a whole lot of seeds that are sown in your mind, either by design or otherwise. But I think it'd be interesting to go on the reverse gear for a bit and understand your childhood. What is it like, and what excited you? What you found fun? What you found boring? What you found irritating? Whatever.
Right. I was born in this gracious city called Madras back then.
Hmm.
My parents originally hailed from Thrissur in Kerala.
Okay.
But we are Tamils. We were not Malayalis. My parents moved when they were just married to Madras. My mother was a committed housewife all her life. My father was a jack of all trades. I'll talk about my father in a bit.
Mm.
So he had a whole lot of interest, and I'm reasonably sure, and I'm convinced that all my interests in branching out in various directions was directly inherited from my father. It was in my DNA that I had to pursue a whole lot of other interests and continue learning. So I was born here, a very simple Tamil family. My father was an automotive engineer.
Okay.
My mother was a housewife. We had an aunt, a spinster, who lived with us all her life. I have 2 other siblings. My elder sister, who's named Ammu, she lives in Goa, and my younger brother, who's a merchant navy captain with the name Captain V.S. Narayan. I'm right in the middle. My full name is Venkatachalam Srinivas Raghavan, but nobody ever calls me by that name. Maybe my passport, but otherwise, right from school, people shortened it down to Rags. Why they even couldn't pronounce Raghavan, which is quite foxes me, but they shortened it down to Rags, and I've been known as Rags ever since till today, right from school all the way till today. So that's my past.
Okay.
I went through conventional schooling. I went to the first 5 years of my life. I went, the siblings, we went to the Church Park Presentation Convent. It was an English medium convent. A lot of my own high, I should rate myself high standard of English is due to those initial impression. I should say those initial formative years at school where we were told to communicate only in English. And not only that, we came back home to an English-speaking family, which is quite very rare. Our father communicated to the 3 of us only in English, and we used to communicate to our mother only in Tamil. So my mother knew English, but she was more comfortable in Tamil. But by and large, the 3 siblings grew up talking only in English to a point where we think in English, we dream in English, and so on and so forth.
Wonderful.
And our language, standard of language, or the grasp over the English language is pretty high, simply because practice makes perfect. You keep talking day and night, and then you're bound to learn, improve on it on a daily basis. So conventional schooling, it was a matriculation school. I finished that, and subsequent to which I had an engineering bent of mine, but I had no patience to go through 5 years of engineering, proper engineering. So I joined the Central Polytechnic doing my licensed mechanical engineering, which is an abridged version of a BE degree, but it's LME diploma, where it's largely hands-on, more hands-on than, which is what I wanted, because from a very young age, instinctively, I picked up a lot of stuff from my father. My father used to do all the house repairs. He used to work on his cars. We had lots of cars. I mean, we were a simple family, but my father was a auto enthusiast. Every 6 months, we'll have another car. We couldn't afford to buy new cars, so he'll buy sparingly used cars from other friends of his and upgrade his car every year. So we owned a lot. We owned Sunbeam Talbots, Humber Super Snipes, Studebaker Conestoga, Studebaker Aeronos, Citroen Avant. The whole list goes on. These are the cars I grew up in. My father used to tinker with those cars every day, and I used to work with him. Right? If my mother was to find my father around the house, very symbolic picture of my father with his head inside the bonnet of the car. That's what he'll be doing. he'll be fixing and unfixing and constantly trying to improve on the performance of the car. I don't think in those young age, we never had a plumber in the house, because my father used to repair the pumps on his own, and it's totally self-taught. It's only an interest. So I'm today ever grateful to my father, late Shri R.V. Chellam, for guiding me from up there. So what I'm doing today is thanks to him.
Wonderful.
So, and it's only I who acquired this characteristic. My sister and brother-in-law, my brother were keen observers. They used to watch me from a distance. So and that is how I grew up. Lots of stuff I learned to do with my hands. So I did my LME. Then I specialized in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, HVAC. And I got a job in the Middle East. I spent 7 years in Dubai. 7 years in the Middle East, 4 years in Dubai, and 3 years in Doha, where I cut my teeth, really working strenuous hours in those heat, and it was physical work, which I enjoyed very much, frankly. So I came back in 1984 or so and started a workshop here, servicing car air conditioning systems. And from then on, I was absorbed by Hitachi. Me and a close friend of mine, childhood friend, we were absorbed by Hitachi, and we were their dealers for several years. The company which Ram and I started still runs, except Ram and I out of the pictures. Someone else is running it. And we were into central air conditioning systems. And then on, I hope I'm not deviating. I'd like to make a long story short. I was doing central air conditioning system design, erection, installation, after sales service. I met up with this gentleman who ran a 30-person IT company. So I was introduced to him, went to his office. They had an old air conditioning system there. I checked it, and I remember giving him a quote for overhauling the whole thing. And he said, it's not worth it, Rex. They are moving to a larger premises. He'll take it up from there. So the 30-person company moved to, say, 75 people. And I was asked to do the entire air conditioning 3 floors of that building. 2 years later, 75 people moved, 250 people. They moved to a larger office in Egmore. I did the air conditioning there. 60 tons of air conditioning. As a result, I got so close to the MD, who became a very, very close friend. Then when 250 people are about to become, I think 600, they moved. We moved to they were planning to move to a larger office when the boss called me and said, look, enough is enough. You come and work for me. So I said, what? I don't know anything about IT. That was a multinational banking and a financial organization. I have no idea about IT. He said, no. He wanted a communications person to work with him. So I joined. I went into software for about 14 years. I was with this company. I've seen the world as a senior client support manager, all this while nurturing my interest on one side. But this is just my professional background. So I've been from air conditioning, I went into IT. Then eventually I quit that, and another friend approached me. He was starting an after-school learning center for children. So he absorbed me, which is where I used all my interest to its fullest. To those children, I taught guitar, I taught photography, I taught STEM, science, technology, engineering, mechanics. I taught English. There's so many things I taught those children. There 5 glorious years, which ended in December. The school still functions, but I'm on a break right now.
How do you maintain your enthusiasm? As I was listening to you narrating your childhood, your growth, your job, your boss, setting up new things which you didn't even know anything about it. What is the source of your enthusiasm and energy? Where does that come from?
Energy, Sridhar, is, I guess it is in my DNA. I mean, it runs in my blood. It's this intention to achieve, if I pick up a project, I ensure it's taken to its completion. I don't think I've ever left anything incomplete. It's a feeling of fulfillment. It's a feeling of achievement when you pick up a project and finish it and say, look, I managed to do this on my own. Yes, in many occasions, it was always teamwork, in which case the team also helped or I helped the team. But I ensured that I took everything from the drawing board all the way to a functioning system.
Okay. So I just wanted to, one thought occurred to me as you are talking about this. In fact, my father once told me that there is a difference between energy and restlessness. Okay. So how do you see that? Do you agree with that perspective?
100%. Restlessness is, sometimes I find sleep a waste of time.
Yeah.
There are times when after a heavy lunch or so, I mean, I am tempted to take a nap, but no, I'll get up and do something or the other. Of course, sometimes I do take a nap, that's fine.
Yeah.
But then when I take a nap, my mind is active. I said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Get up and do all of that. And usually, right now, it's tinkering around my workshop in my house.
So you don't look upon restlessness as a negative thing, is it?
No, I don't. For me, like I said, sleep is a waste of time. So instead of sleeping, I'd rather be doing something.
So rest is a waste of time.
For me, maybe.
You don't need the rest.
I don't. If you want to take a rest, I don't blame you. People, when
So it's not correct.
We let our bodies dictate when we are tired, when we are tired enough. Then you go for take a rest, put your feet up, or you take a snooze or something else.
Yeah. But I love the spirit and the energy with which you speak about everything that you have done. It's amazing. So how did you develop interest in such a variety of fields? Music, visual art, bird watching, nature conservationist, writing. Can we start with music? How did that start? Your interest in music?
Music. My mother was a trained Carnatic singer. Late Mrs. Sharda Chellam. She was a trained Carnatic singer. So my elder sister Ammu, she started when she was, I think, 13, 14. She was learning Carnatic vocals at home. Okay. And she was very good. Then she switched. She was also learning vocals and moved to playing the violin. Then I was not into music. I was watching and waiting, I guess. Okay. My younger brother was very talented with his fingers. I mean, he was always drumming. He was always playing rhythm, self-taught. Okay? So my parents put him into Mridangam lessons and he did do very well too. In the meanwhile, at school, there was a senior who used to play guitar at school culturals, and I was completely enamored. Every time this boy, he was 4 years my senior, and I'm still in touch with him. He picked up his guitar and played to the audience. I'll go into a trance. I'll be mystified. I said, look, I tell myself, I need to play that instrument. I need to learn that instrument. And it was a sheer drive. So it's nothing but a drive. Look, I have to learn that instrument. If Vijayan can do it, I can do it. But the learning curve was pretty steep. So, but I begged and pleaded with my parents, and I think it's for my birthday or so, they got me a guitar. My father didn't know one end of a guitar from the other, so he got a friend of his who played the guitar, and asked him to go and buy a guitar and come. Mr. Moses was his name. He came home around 10ish in the morning, somebody in the riding PN carrying the guitar, and I was in seventh heaven. I didn't know anything about the guitar. All I know is it made great music, provided you knew how to use it. Okay. So by evening, I was playing simple tunes already. I had already figured out the layout of the guitar, those 6 strings and those 22 frets. So this is how it works. This is how you switch from string to string to string, from low notes to mid notes to high notes, and what those frets are for, what each string denotes. It's all self-taught. So I learned to play guitar on my own for about, say, 2 years. Then I went to a music school to learn music grammar or music theory. That is reading Western music score.
Right.
Which I can do to some extent. I forgot most of it till today, but I learned that too, the nuances, the theory of music, which I learned, what is a major chord, what's a minor chord, and so on and so forth. Then I graduated to, my brother in the meanwhile was so badly influenced by me that he gave up mridangam and he started playing drums. So my parents were always obliging, they were always encouraging us. So they gifted him with an entire big
complete
drum set in our old house. And my brother Shankar, and Narayan is his formal name, he's Shankar Narayan, we call him Shankar. So he used to play the drums, I used to play the guitar, and we used to play songs together. To an extent, we got to a point when we told us, let's start a band. So we checked out, there were some other people whom we know who could sing, who could play the guitar, and we roped them all in, and our band was called the Live Wires. We played for over 100 public performances. And we were fairly popular Western music group back in time, when, of course, the pressure of studies, I was 15, 16, I was heading towards school final and so on and so forth. So the band sort of disbanded. Our band was called the Live Wire. So at some point we blew a fuse, and our band disbanded. And I'm still in touch with those musicians. They've all gone worldwide. Very few of them are still in touch with their musical instruments. My brother and I still play. My brother has a drum room in his house. He's got a room where he parks a jazz drum kit and he still plays. So I've got 6, 7 guitars around the house. I continue playing. For me, it has come to a point playing the guitar is like brushing my teeth. I have to. It has to be done every day. I just pick up the guitar, play 10, 15 minutes to keep the rust off my fingers, put it back and go on about my work. So guitar came to a point where in the last more than 5 years, before this, I joined this after school learning center called Quest. I was teaching children to learn the guitar at home. I was teaching them at home, collecting a nominal fee, and they were learning from me. And I have taught over 30 children in all these years, 6, 7 years. Definitely over 30 children. One of them has gone to Starry Heights. So that's good. 1 out of 30 isn't so bad. Brilliant. That boy lives in Amsterdam now, and he's playing for a band there. He's studying and he's still playing for a band, and he learned from scratch from me, and credit goes to him for learning. See, as a teacher, you can only show the way. 99% of the initiative must be realized with the student. Absolutely. Right. If I keep nodding to everything you say, I'm not absorbing anything, I'm not learning. Correct. So I just showed them the way. It's like, as parents, we've done that to our children. We show them the way, and then they pick up the pieces as they go along. Yeah. So that, incidentally, I am married. We have a son who's now who's recently married. He's married to a French girl, and my son Rishabh is doing his PhD in anthropology at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, and his wife Capucine, she's doing her PhD in architecture also at Edinburgh. Both met and got married. So they are right now in France. They'll be leaving for Edinburgh to complete their thesis in a week or so. So very quickly, that's about my family life. It had to come in at some point, so I thought I'd introduce that. Yeah.
No, but I think it's very interesting that I am getting a lot of interesting inputs from you in terms of the kind of learner you are, how enthusiasm is a very important element of your style or your persona. And you just grab anything that you see and you get something out of it, you make something out of it. All that is very fascinating. Incidentally, I noticed something on your wrist there. What is that on your right thing? You're drawn some.
I was.
Is that a tattoo?
Show you this when the topic came up. The topic will come up eventually. But this is a crocodile tattoo.
Yeah,
my own design.
Tattoo. Yeah, crocodile tattoo. I can make it out. Yeah.
It's a crocodile design. It's a mobile tattoo. It can open and close its jaws.
Oh my God.
This is because I developed a keen interest in reptiles when I was on the board of trustees, Chennai Snake Park. So after I left the snake park, I told myself I needed something which reminded me of those park. I was on the board, their board of trustees for 22 years. So I wanted to do a snake tattoo initially, then the snake is too blah. I mean, I know. So I let me do a croc tattoo and I got this done at a tattoo parlor here. My own design, it's a dynamic or a mobile tattoo which actually moves.
Very interesting. Incidentally, has anybody told you that you have a very funny sense of humor?
I thought I allow it to surface on its own. I don't like to gloat about these things, but I do have a great sense of humor.
Yeah, I mean, it's delightful to listen to what you're saying, especially when you narrate your stories in the past and the connections and so on. It's pretty exciting. So that takes me to, you talked about visual artist. I'm just curious about this. In addition to being a photographer, you said you're a visual artist. What exactly does that mean?
The definition of my own definition of visual artist has direct connotations to my other interest, which is photography. So in photography, there are two ways of taking a picture. You can take a picture or you can make a picture.
Oh, take a picture or make a picture. Okay.
Take a photo or make a photo. Predominantly, everybody takes photos. We take selfies and this and that. People see something interesting. Largely, when you talk of camera photography, it's only people pictures. We're always taking pictures of each other. Unless when you travel, you see some nice landscape. Even then, it doesn't automatically dawn in on people. Let's stop the car and take a picture of the landscape. We just look at it, keep driving. Usually, when we travel with the family, we take pictures against the pyramids of Egypt or the Eiffel Tower or the Taj Mahal. It's pictures of us.
Yeah.
So that's all taking pictures. So when I brand myself as a visual artist, I'll give you a scenario like I walk on the beach every morning I walk my dog. We have a chocolate Labrador by the name Choco. I walk her on the beach every day, and let's say I see something very interesting. But naturally, walking a dog and carrying a camera are two different ends of the spectrum. It's impossible to mix up both. So after I finish my walk, the next day, or time permitting, the subject is fairly static. I go back with my camera gear, my tripod, and shoot the same picture. So here I am making a picture. I never shot impromptu or spontaneous. I never shot from the hip. I saw something interesting. I made a mental note of it. So it was like the sky and the sun and the waves and the beach is a permanent backdrop. Okay. That's a permanent backdrop. But what is moving and dynamic in front could change. So I go back with my camera and I shoot the picture. It could be the same day or the very next day. This is an example of what I call is making a picture. I don't take a picture because here I am. I saw something. I pre-visualized what it would look like in a picture. I prepared myself for that. And I carried my gear. This time I went armed and I set up everything and took this picture. It is called making a picture. This is why I call myself a visual artist. I like to create pictures in my photography.
Right.
There's of course in photography you have to shoot from the hip sometimes, but by and large I like to create pictures, and this inspiration is something comes from the great late Ansel Adams, the American landscape photographer.
Okay.
He was an advocate of making pictures and not taking pictures. He'll see a scenery, he'll come back the next day or the next week and shoot it. So he's already pre-visualized the image in his mind. So that is why
he has composed the picture in his mind. He's thought of the lighting. He will figure out, etc. So it's a very well-planned kind of thing. It's not an act of accident.
No, like I say, if I shot from the hip, it is an accident. If I just pick up my camera and shoot, which I do often, but more than anything else, if there's something which is interesting, I come back and shoot it. For example, if you my own specialty right now is the past 10 years is studying the human condition. I like to take people pictures. It's called street photography or travel photography, or include people in all my pictures. So, like if it's a temple or a heritage complex, I ensure there are people there, because just a picture of an old temple doesn't work. If there are some human beings in the picture, not posing for me, going about their work, then it adds a sense of scale and adds life to an otherwise dead sculpture. So I always include humans in the picture. And so the human condition or the human being is the most is a figure that can be signified by infinite number of variables. We have so many ways we are expressing ourselves, which a sculpture cannot. So I always include human beings in the picture. So people photography is what I specialize in now.
So there must be, when you're shooting people, there must be certain moments which may not happen again. So at that time, do you make the picture or take the picture? What do you do?
Good question. There is also what's known as the sense of anticipation. When you watch a person doing something, let's say somebody is making chai, right? He's making chai, for example. So you want to catch the moment when the upper glass is really up high, right? So this is either taking a picture or making a picture, but I'm doing the picture, I'm planning it so that it makes it far more interesting when the other teacup is way up high than near the second cup. So once it's high, it signifies the way the tea is being cooled.
So you wait for the moment.
Yeah, it's that moment, and it's a sense of anticipation, and a lot of planning is required, which I probably learned from taking pictures of birds or animals, because birds and animals are largely predictable.
Right.
You can, you have to be a keen observer first, which I've honed, the skill which I've honed over the years. You will know exactly what the bird or animal is going to do next. Likewise, I apply that to large extent in people pictures.
What about babies, children?
Yes. Children have got a mind of their own. I'm more talking about adults.
So there again, you learn to wait for the moment to capture. Is that
Absolutely.
or is it something impromptu that happens?
Sorry?
Anything impromptu that happens when you're shooting pictures of the children?
It can work both ways. It can work both ways. You can take impromptu pictures, or you can wait for something to happen. Like if I'm taking pictures of my dog, I know what she's going to do next. So I wait for that moment.
Okay.
If she's playing with her ball or something, I know exactly what she's going to do next.
Right.
So I wait for the moment, but I don't miss out the earlier moment. I do that for what it's worth. In case she doesn't do what I'm expecting to do, then I still have one insurance shot with me.
I love the idea of insurance shot. That's a nice one. How did you become a trustee of the Chennai Snake Park? What is the story there?
To Snake Park, being a trustee is actually it has a dotted line to my other interest, which is bird watching and nature conservation. So from a very young age, I was very keen about watching birds. We had in our old Alwapet house, we had a large compound opposite our house. It was vacant, and it used to fill up with rainwater after the rains, and used to attract lots of wading birds. There used to be black-winged stills, egrets, paddy birds, white-breasted kingfishers, you name it. All those I couldn't identify back then. I only knew them as this bird looks like this, the other bird looks like that. That's all I knew. I was now 10, 11 years old. Then there was this pair of binoculars at home, which belonged to my father, and he used to sit there in my veranda and watch these birds. That I didn't know one species from the other. Then at school, during science class, Mrs. Gomati, bless her soul, she was the one who took a lot of interest in me in school, because among all the other class, I the only one who had a lot of interest in biology and wildlife science is probably me. So I used to consult Mrs. Gomati after the class and tell her, look, I saw this bird and saw that bird. Can you identify this? And then one day she took me to the school library, took out a bird book, and she asked me to point out the birds which I had seen. Okay. And sure enough, I pointed out those birds, and she identified them. And then I had graduated to the next level, right? So, and I was able to identify at least a dozen species of birds which I could see in that pond opposite my house. Then I asked my parents to get me a bird book, and they got me Dr. Salim Ali's Book of Indian Birds. It cost 25 rupees back then. 25 rupees is a lot of money. My father asked me 1,000 times, do you really want to buy this book? I said, look, I want it. So he said, great reluctance, I suppose he bought it for me, but I put that book to good use. So now I had a book, I could see a bird, refer, and then make notes. And then the pond, the swamp opposite my house dried up. Then there were birds in the trees. I identified all those birds, and the birds up in the sky. I identified all those birds and make exhaustive notes of those. To an extent where I was watching birds throughout, there's something about bird watching. Ornithology is a science. I am not an ornithologist, but ornithology is the science of studying birds. I am more of Sunday morning bird watcher, but I'm good at it. I'm fairly good at identifying birds, and got to a point where whenever we traveled from home, I used to carry the binoculars, watch birds from the car, on the telephone lines, and so on and so forth. And it came to a point till the present day when I became an active member. Yes, there was a long window of the 7 years when I was in the Middle East, when there was no birds to watch. There are very few. So that's a bit of a intermission. When I came back to India, with a bang. So I told myself I have to move on with this. I became a member of the World Wildlife Fund, the Nilgiri Wildlife Association, the Madras Naturalist Society. I'm a member of all these even now, except for Nilgiri Wildlife, which is not very active. Okay. MNS, Madras Naturalist Society, is an active organization. I am a senior member there, there. And I used to be active, go along with their bird watching camps, go along with their nature tours, and so on and so forth. To a point where the Chennai Snake Park had just removed its existing chairman, and the new chairman was appointed, the eminent Mr. B. Raghavan, who was ex-chairman at Tamil Nadu Electricity Board. He was also a passionate wildlifer and nature enthusiast. The wildlife department, because the snake park comes directly under the umbrella of the wildlife department. Okay. So they appointed Mr. Raghavan, who was the chairman. And since Mr. Raghavan had seen me active during the Wildlife Society meetings, he absorbed me as on the board of trustees for the snake park. I was on board the snake park for 22 years. I didn't waste a moment of it. Whenever I found time, I used to go to the park, usually on weekends. Snake park trustee meetings were, I think, bi-monthly. I used to attend all that. In between, I used to go to the park. I learned to handle snakes. Oh, actually handle snakes? Yes. The all types of snakes? Yeah, maybe I'll show, if you're okay, I will share screen. Yeah. Where is that? There is one there, correct? Rags at Snake Park. Yes. This is it's a non-venomous rat snake. My God, and a huge fellow. Yes, non-venomous. It can bite. It's got fangs, but it has no venom. Okay. Right. This was taken when I was on board the snake park back then. Okay. It is not only a question of picking up snakes. It is my interest made me learn more about snakes, how to differentiate between a venomous snake and a non-venomous snake. So that is something which I learned. You don't mess with a venomous snake. Right. You don't mess with any snake for that matter. If you see a snake, you let it go, it slither away on its own. Okay. Even a non-venomous snake, if you go and try and beat it or try and poke it, it turns around to attack you. Okay. Right? It's like that. So this is something I picked up at the snake park 22 years. I'm thankful to Mr. Raghavan for including me on the board of trustees. And it was a very, very rewarding 22 years on board. the trust.
So are you still continuing to be on the board?
No.
Or?
2017, I quit. I quit
2017.
2017.
Okay. So that takes me to your next interesting hobby, or whatever you want to call it, rifle shooting. When did you start? I understand you won a bronze medals twice at the Tamil Nadu State Championship. I find it very interesting. So tell me more about this.
Here are my medals.
My goodness.
I'll come to this soon.
Yeah,
One
sure.
says year 2000, the other says 2004. These are 2 bronze medals, Tamil Nadu State Shooting Championships.
Okay.
So, how did I pick up the gun? I had a inborn interest in firearms. I don't know why. Right from a very early age. I liked toy guns. There's always lots of toy guns around the house. I like guns. There used to be a point when our family owned an estate in the neighboring state of Andhra Pradesh.
Okay.
About 75, 80 kilometers from here, a place called Satyavadu. And we owned an expanse of mango orchard, 55 or 60 acres, large piece of property. We owned that, which we sold eventually. And that estate was called Green Totem.
Green Totem.
My father bought it from a European, a man called Russell Green, who had no interest in mangoes or agriculture. But he bought the estate because wild pigs and deer used to come into the estate, and he used to shoot them. This man was an avowed hunter. His name was Russell Green. We bought that estate from him, and that estate for several years was called the Green Totem, Green Estate. So abutting the estate was the reserve forest. At that point, I don't think it had a name, but today all that is called part of the Venkateshwara National Park. Okay. It's from our estate, the 7 folds of the hills of Tirupati begin.
Oh, okay.
The forest starts, the Yermalai, as they call it, it literally starts from our estates. My estate, and our ex-estate or former estate, and it used to go up the hills. It was full of dense jungle. At one point, there was tiger, there was leopard, and there were no elephant, but there was bear among the carnivores, all shot to death, I'm sure. So my father's friends used to come to our estate for hunting.
Wow.
So Frederick Moses, Mr. Bielan Rao, I forget most of the names, all gone by now. And all these uncles were avowed hunters. They all had guns at home. So they used to come to our estate for hunting, and I used to go along with them for those hunts. There was a lake at the back, usually they shot duck and things like that, which they would eat later on. But I had no interest in hunting. My interest was in the guns, in firearms per se, and nothing else.
Okay. So target practice kind of stuff.
There were no targets then. So those gentlemen used to set up targets for me on a tree trunk or something of sort, and allowed me to shoot. I was 10 years old or so, plus minus 1 year, and at that age I've shot double-barreled 12-gauge shotguns. I've shot 30-06 bolt-action rifles. I've shot 275 Magnum rifles. All one shot, bang! I'll go fall somewhere there because the recoil was so heavy. They had to hold me from the back, kind of thing.
Right.
But I'll put it like this: the very sound of gunfire and the gun smoke from the burnt carbide. Carbide was the nitroglycerine which they use in cartridges. Once it explodes, and that smoke was so aromatic. It's something which only I would know. To me, it smelled like perfume. Right? Gun smoke.
This is amazing. This is the first time I heard somebody say gun smoke was aromatic.
Because I'm an enthusiast.
Yeah.
And I'm an enthusiast. Yeah. So that is when I picked up this interest in active interest in firearms. Earlier, they were all in books. I used to dream about guns and all that. Okay. Then years later, I went to the Middle East where there were plenty of gun shops. I went and bought myself 2 air rifles, one Webley and Scott Osprey, and one BSA Transporter, both which I bought in India. I gave them away several years later. And at some point must have been 1985 or 1986 when I had come back to the Middle East when I was told by a common friend that there is an active rifle club in the city, a gun club and with its own range in the city, Madras Rifle Club. So I wasted no time in applying for membership there. It was a long process. because it's a gun club, we have to go through a lot of procedures, verifications to get admitted into as a member. I remember one of the processes in applying for the rifle club was a police verification certificate, which the local police station has to issue. So when I apply for a membership, they forward to the local police station of the jurisdiction where I live, and they come for an interview. In the meanwhile, my beloved father had gone, and my mother was there at home. I was away at work. I was running an air conditioning company. Then when I come home, I think it was lunch, she's sitting there petrified on the sofa. She says, somebody from the police station came. They want you to come to the police station. See, I never, I forgot to inform her that this process is.
I can imagine the scene. Your mother must have been so tense.
And shivering, what has this fellow done, kind of thing. So I go to the police station, the usual formality, and then I became a member in 1986.
Okay.
Then continued shooting target at the rifle club, shooting firearm. Then in the year 2000, I won the bronze medal in Tamil Nadu state shooting in a firearm discipline, 50 meters prone.
Okay.
And then the year 2004, I won the bronze medal in air rifle 10 meter standing, two different disciplines. I have to say here at this juncture that the medals, I'm very thankful for the medals, but the medals were not the goal. Competing was my intent. I wanted to compete. So if I won the bronze, it meant if I had shot a little better, I would have won the silver. Shot a little better, I would have won the gold. But I had to be happy with bronze. But it also meant some 50 other people were behind me were eliminated because I shot better than them. That was all. The medals are pure. They're pure memory, nothing but a memory. And I treasure these. This is like a family heirloom, which will be handed down to generation to generation. So that was my interest in firearms. And at some point, the club nominated me, sent a request letter to the Commissioner of Police asking them to grant me a firearm license. I got my own license. I have my license now, permit to own a firearm. And I continued taking my firearm to the club once in a while. When I'm still active with the club, except the distance is 16 kilometers away from here. So I go there maybe once in 2-3 months or so. But in the meanwhile, the guns are all in top shape, oiled, clean. Wow. I service the guns myself. They've never been to a gunsmith. I know what to do myself. I take them apart. I change the firing spins. I change the hammer. I change the breech seals. I change the piston seals. Everything I've changed myself from parts which I got abroad. So this is the saga of the Rifle Club, which is or my interest in target shooting, not hunting. I have nothing to do with hunting. I have never hunted. I don't plan to hunt in my life. I'll even go to the extent of saying, I look down upon all those trophy hunters of those days who used to shoot a tiger and put it up on the wall. It was, they were criminals. They were nothing but criminals, right? So just to put up a magnificent specimen like a tiger, shoot it and put it on the wall. These Britishers and our Maharajas were responsible for decimating India's predators. So I really looked down upon them. I cursed them.
Right. Can I ask you to move a little to your right so you'll be in the center of the screen? A little right. A little bit more. That's it. Perfect. Yeah. So that takes me to you're being a handyman. What all have you made using DIY kits, or you don't use the DIY kits at all? Do you get good DIY kits in India? You know, doing things on your own. There are not too many such people I have met, so I'm very curious.
I'm glad you brought this around. My interest in DIY, do it yourself, was inherited, thankful to my father, because he used to do this at home. He had an assortment of tools at home. And I inherited this from him. It began with simple changing a tube light or rewiring something. Most electrical things around the house I have done myself. Even plumbing up to a point I do. Beyond a point, plumbing I leave it to the hands of a professional or an expert. I work on my cars I work on my scooter myself. I take apart things, put them inside. Even there, I know where to stop. I won't open up an engine. Though I know how to do it, I leave it to a professional. So DIY is not to do with kids. If it at all had anything to do with kids, it was during those early formative years when I used to buy, my parents used to get me aero modeling kits from India Hobby Center. I used to make toy planes, fly them and that kind of thing. Simply because my hands could not keep idle. I had to do something with it, to a point where I graduated to today, where I have a full-fledged workshop at home. I do all home repairs. If some neighbor has a problem, I even go fix that sort of thing. So this is what DIY is. I enjoy working with tools. I have a collection of tools. You name it, I've got. I can take apart an aircraft carrier if I have to. Let me show you this very quickly. This is my workshop at home.
Okay, where is that?
Can you see? I'm sharing screen now.
Oh, Pattarai merge, that one.
That's the one.
Okay.
Pattarai means workshop in Tamil.
Yeah, I know.
The hand tools are here.
Can
got
you
my own
enlarge
drilling
that
machine.
picture? Is it possible for you to enlarge that picture? No. Pattarai? Otherwise, you can send it to me later, no problem.
I'll send it to you later.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they were...
No, not to worry. Not to worry. No problem.
Okay, come to that next.
Yeah.
So I'll send you this whole album later.
Yeah. No problem at all. No problem.
So that's...
one thing that occurred to me is that let's do watches, and then let me ask you another thing. Okay. So your interest in watches, how did you start collecting your watch collection? Where did it start? How did it start? What prompted you? I'm very curious about this watch collection.
Again, thanks to my father, he owned a Rolex Oyster Perpetual watch, a very expensive watch, which I think is still with my sister now in Goa. So I used to wear that watch very often. He used to let me wear it, in those days. Then when I went to the Middle East, when I was earning money, my own money, I bought my first watch, and I had this fascination for sports watches, or they're technically called chronographs, multifunction watches, like the one I am wearing now.
Right.
Multifunction watches, which is what my fascination was. And I started a collection. See, it's an expensive hobby, so there's nothing. I have to do some justice to running the family as well. I can't keep spending money on watches. So it was a slow hobby. In the 80s, I think it started. Till today, I must have about 28 to 30 watches. 4 or 5 of them I gifted away. The others were junked. I think, for example, this is a collection.
Oh my goodness!
They're all sports watches, right?
Seven of them there, right?
Sorry, there's 16 here.
16 here.
16, another 6 more in the cupboard.
Okay.
So it was just a fascination. I like to wear a new watch every day. The watch I'm wearing today, it'll go back into the cupboard, and I'll be wearing something else tomorrow. Every day is a ritual. It's a ritual. It's a ritual. It's a new watch. I wear a new watch every day.
So do you have a watch that is lucky for occasions or anything like that? Are there any sentiments attached to watches?
There is one favorite watch of mine. But then I tell myself, no, favoritism has to take the back seat. Every watch needs to be shown every day, kind of thing. Yes, there is a favorite watch. It's not a lucky watch, but it is a favorite of mine for XYZ reasons.
Yeah, like for instance, I have a friend of mine who will have a particular watch whenever he made a presentation, pitching to clients. Whenever he went for interviews, there was another watch. So when people attach sentiments to all of these things, and they suddenly become very important differently, right? So that's what I was curious about. Yeah.
Yeah, there are people who are sentimental about wearing a particular watch. I don't have that. I only have a favorite watch.
So tell me about things like scale model motorcycle. can you show me one which I can see? And what brands have you collected? How did it start?
Again, let me try and share screen. Sorry.
Okay.
I have to share screen.
Do you have a three-dimensional scale model with you there?
Okay. Tell you what, as you suggested, I'll send those pictures as a folder.
Yeah, that's fine. I can, no problem.
See, this is a Aprilia, an Italian-made motorcycle.
Okay.
This is also, it's a Ducati. It's also an Italian-made motorcycle.
Okay.
Right. And I've got quite a collection of this. I've got about 75, 80 of them. Every one is distinct. I don't have two of the same model.
Okay.
I have Hondas, I have Harley-Davidsons, I have Kawasaki's, I have Triumphs, I have Norton Manxes. You name it, I've got all of them. BMWs, I've got all of those bikes. I can't afford the real thing. Let me just collect this.
So tell me, this scale model thing, it's not something you make, you buy it, is it?
I bought one in 1998, I think, for my son. And I'm a motorcycle enthusiast. I had big bikes at one point. So I found one in a shop, in a toy shop. I bought one and gave it as a gift to my son. It was sitting there on the mantelpiece for quite some time. The next time I went to the same shop, they had other models, 2, 3 more, I think. And like that, the collection started creeping upon me. It came to about, I had collected something like 50 motorcycles when they're all made by a company called Maisto in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So I took a picture of all these motorcycles and sent it to this company, Maisto in Hong Kong, saying, boss, this is my collection I have now. Immediately, they sent an email about 2 or 3 days later saying, thank you very much. We're so happy you're collecting our models. In future, if you want to buy our models, they gave me an address of a distributor in Chennai, in North Madras. Right. So it's this bookshop where I was buying, I had paying 300 rupees for it. This wholesaler used to give it me for 180 rupees.
Okay.
So I used to go all the way to Amjikarai to buy these bikes from him because I had direct license from the manufacturer in Hong Kong. And that man became a friend. So whenever I see me, sir, I got new motorcycles. Or he'll call me, sir, new batches come from Hong Kong. So I used to go there, select the models, and I used to buy it at dirt cheap rates. And my collection grew to 75. I think I have 90, of which I shall share pictures soon. You can put it up on the group whenever you can.
Okay. So that's actually collecting, not making anything.
No. It's purely collecting motorcycles because I had an interest in big motorcycles.
I understand.
Even when sports-wise, I'm not very keen. I'm not a cricket fan. I don't watch cricket, but Saturdays and Sunday evenings, I am watching either MotoGP or Formula One. I'm a keen follower of motorsports. My father was also an active motorsports club member in Madras. So that was also something inherited from him.
Okay. The thing that I'm very curious about is this. You mentioned about bird watching earlier. Okay. Where in Chennai do you go to watch birds? Have you traveled to different destinations to watch birds? Where all have you gone in India, around the world?
Around the world was largely business trips when I was in IT. For 14 years, I was in banking and financial IT. So those are only business trips. And I used to keep an eye open. I remember our bus in which I was traveling stopped at a park somewhere in central Madrid in Spain. And there are lots of birds feeding outside. I've never seen those birds before, magpies and all that, which you don't see in India. For the first time, I'm seeing them in Europe. Those birds, so far, had only existed in bird books. I've never seen them in flesh and blood. But there I am sitting in Madrid, I'm watching birds. Likewise, I used to watch the odd bird in my travels. When I went to Zurich, I was sitting in my client's office near a window in the opposite building. On the opposite building was hardly 40 feet away. There was a ledge where there was a peregrine falcon nesting. So I called my colleague there and told her, she is Swiss German. I told her, look, that's a peregrine falcon. For the first time in her life, she even knew that there was a bird there. And then she learned to identify that it was a peregrine falcon. So she quickly rounded up our colleagues and said, see, Rags just pointed to the bird, peregrine falcon. But lesser bird watching was accomplished in those travels abroad. Most of my bird watching trips were in India, because we have India is very wealthy in its natural heritage. Very wealthy. Flora, fauna, we rank next to Africa. Next to Africa, we rank next. We have so much of variety in flora, fauna in India that it will take several generations to see all of that. There are supposedly 1,400 species of birds in India. 1,400 different species of birds seen in the Indian subcontinent. I must have seen 400 of that lot. Still so much more to go, right? It's like that. So I've traveled all over India. I've been to the Himalayas on bird watching tours. Himachal Pradesh. I've been to the Garhwal Himalayas. I've seen exotics there. When we see a bird for the first time, we bird watchers call it the lifer, L-I-F-E-R. I've seen a lifer today. So what's a lifer? I saw a Lammergeier vulture or something. It means if you see a bird for the first time in your life, you call it a lifer and you put it down in your notes.
Oh, okay.
So I've traveled all over the country, Bharatpur and Rajasthan. You name the wildlife sanctuary, I've been there. Or North India and in South India. In Maharashtra, Tadoba, I've been twice.
Oh, okay.
It's like that. So in Chennai, this is the bird watching season between November and say Feb, when the lakes are all full after the monsoon. So not too far from my house, if I travel south 8 kilometers, I come to the Perumbakam Lake, where you can see pelicans, you can see flamingos.
Okay.
Even now, you can see at one morning's birding session, you can see about 80 species of different birds. You can see that. They're all over the town. You need spotting scope, telescope, and binoculars to spot them. So I do that even now.
So photography, one thing I wanted to ask you about photography, shooting pictures with mobile phones has become a very common thing. Is that something that you approve of? I mean,
how can I disapprove of it? It's a very handy tool. I can go to the extent of saying that this is a camera with a phone attached, not the other way around. This is a camera. I can also make phone calls with it. It's like that. Right?
That's a good angle. A good one.
Right. So it is a handy gadget and people are using it. Nothing wrong with it, except that you can't learn photography with a smartphone. Because it is what I call as idiot mode. You press the button, gets a picture, right? It does all the thinking for you. You don't have to apply your mind at all. Press a button, takes a picture. And it's a respectable picture your phone has got. So I cynically call it the idiot mode, right? So
it is the same as the original box camera in some sense.
As the original box camera, like what I first, let me finish with smartphones first. But I do, in spite of all the number of cameras I've got with me, I still take pictures with my mobile phone when I'm walking my dog on the beach. This is a wide angle camera which travels in my pocket.
Okay.
It's a luxury, isn't it?
That's a lovely thing to say.
Yeah, it's a luxury. Otherwise, you have to carry such a big thing. I can't do it with my dog. So this is a wide angle lens or a camera, which with fairly good resolution is not a very expensive phone.
Right.
Above average, upper middle class phone. That's about it. But it takes reasonably good pictures. I still use it like millions and millions of people otherwise. But for serious pictures, one needs to invest in a proper DSLR. Today, my first camera was a Kodak box camera, which belonged to my father. It was, I think, built in 1945 or so, and I have it right here.
Right. So let me see that. That'd be nice to see.
The Kodak box camera.
Right.
And Sridhar, it still works.
Okay. So do you get rolls for it? Do you get rolls for it?
It's 620 film. You don't get rolls for it.
So what do you do?
It's an heirloom. It'll be handed down to several grandchildren. But it'll never be sold. It's a
that's great.
It'll never be sold. It'll never be sold.
Correct.
There I have graduated to something. This is what I use today.
Yeah.
This is a professional DSLR. This is what I use today.
Right.
So a lot of water has flown in between. So
in the context of bird watching, where all in the country have you traveled to shoot birds?
To watch birds first.
Watch birds. Shooting birds is the wrong thing. Watch birds.
Shooting birds is hit and miss. It's hit and miss. To watch birds, I'm a wildlife watcher, observer first.
Okay.
First and foremost, that is what I am. I'm an observer, enthusiast. That's what I am first. So my primary tool when I go into the forest, binoculars. As long as I see something clearly, I have a powerful 840 Nikon Monarch binoculars, one of the best in the world. It's a lifetime investment. I carry that with me and I watch animals, wild animals and birds with it, because I'll put the memory card in my head is way better than the one in my camera. So those fine details which I see through the binoculars etched in my mind. With my camera may not be able to record. Next comes taking a picture. It is not blind shooting, duck, cigarette, this, that. No. Observe, observe, observe. Today's wildlife photographers are totally misled. They see something, they shoot. They don't even know what picture they're taking. They can't even identify the bird. So I grew up, I cut my teeth into this business of wildlife, nature, and bird watching, observing. Those days you didn't have a camera. I was observing what the bird would do, what the bird. Did you know, if you're watching a bird, any bird, right? If you're watching a bird, you will know exactly the moment before it flies off.
Oh, okay.
Usually it poops. When it defecates, it's relieving itself, and it is now, in its mind, it's told itself, I want to start flying. So it's offloading some load. It poops and then flies. So if you're waiting with a long lens,
amazing.
You see, I've seen it work for falcons and all that. I've seen it work. They poop and then suddenly take off. So the poop is the indication for you to get ready. And then click, 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 keep shooting. Then you might get some good flight shot. But this is my own unorthodox theory. But I know I am right. This pooping is a sense of, the bird is trying to, it's not trying, doesn't care two hoots about you. It's trying to tell itself that I must move from this point to that point and flies off. And
all of these observations that you have is different for different species of birds. Am I right?
By and large, I think this is a yardstick I cannot apply to all birds. But I've been observing Shaheen falcons in the Jinji Fort, watching them with telescope and binoculars. They are at a great distance, so photography must have been impossible. Watching them, and they look around, they sort of fidget this way, that way, this way, that way. They get sort of restless, they poop, and then they fly. So what is this? It's a sixth or seventh sense which tells the bird that in order to start flying, you first let go offload some load.
Right.
Maybe I may be wrong, I may be right, but I've observed all this through all these trials and tribulations. And what does it all boil down to? Observation, which are nature. To be a keen enthusiast, you have to observe first. Forget your camera. Take pictures later. Everybody today is interested in going to Tadoba, Pench, Corbett, Ranthambore, tiger pictures. Tiger. It's like that. You ask somebody, you just went to Jim Corbett National Park. What did you see? I saw nothing. When he says nothing, he means he didn't see tiger. That's what he means by nothing. The fact that he saw elephants, he saw sambar, he saw the deer, he saw this. Don't figure in the argument at all. He has gone there to see tiger. He has put himself in tiger mode. So he'll say, recently a couple said, no, Rags, we went, where was we? I think Tadova. We didn't see anything. What do you mean? You went to national park and you didn't see anything? No tiger, Rags. You went to see only tiger. If you want to see tiger, go to the zoo. Who's asking you to go to the national park? Go to a zoo, you can see a tiger then 3 feet away from you behind the cage. But this is what people are, because everybody gets into, I'm being very cynical here and I look down upon people like that, especially these tiger tourists. Tiger
tourist is a wonderful expression.
Yeah, the tiger tourists. It's just, but it cannot be wished away. Tiger tourism is what brings us money into the national parks and all that. That's why, thanks to a whole lot of people who say tiger and go there, they are the ones who keep those national parks alive, not people like me.
I love the way you say it. Okay, that brings me to the subject of writing, Rags. Tell me about your writing. What do you write on? where can one get to read what you write? Have you published a book? Has any of your stuff been published in magazines of repute or great, like the National Geographic kind of stuff? What is it? I mean, very curious about this. I have a soft corner for writing and writers, so that's why I wanted to ask this.
Well, I'm a self-branded artist, like I told you. So I have one skill, which is music. That makes me an artist, musician. I'm a photographer. That makes me an artist, visual artist. So what else do I lack? I mean, writing is also an art, right? So writing comes naturally to me. It's only because of the command over the language I've got.
Right.
I've got very good command over the language, thanks to my parents, my sister, my brother. We all speak flawless English. You know, speaking well, I read well. My house is full of books. I've read a lot. I'm a very well-read person. So somewhere in between, writing came across naturally. My first forays into writing was in the early 90s, I think, when I wrote for a Dubai-based children magazine called Khaleej Times Young World or Young Times, I forget. So I used to write about bird watching. So every fortnightly, they'll publish an article. The editor was known to me, or I became a friend of his. They used to publish one story of mine every week and on how to go bird watching. It was largely about every issue had some pictures, one or two pictures, mostly text on describing the bird and how I went about this finding the bird and where it can be seen. And that's so on and so forth. And also a whole lot of pros and cons, do's and don'ts about bird watching. So this was a whole series which was published. They used to pay me something. And I've got those in hard copy form with me.
Okay.
Right. Those were probably my first forays into writing. Then I used to write and take pictures for a Madras-based tabloid called Madras Musings, which is still being published today, but I don't do work for them. For Madras Musings, the editor, the late, great Madras historian, Mr. S. Mutaya.
Yeah, I know.
You know him, yes.
Yes.
He and I were intimate friends. Well, he took me on board the magazine. I was only a freelance photographer. For 4 or 5 years, I worked with him. And I used to send all my pictures and text, write about little, each picture would require a caption. So all that I used to write myself. And there are 1 or 2 articles which I've written too. But I had this flair for writing. Then off late, many of my stories have been published in social media because it's an easier way to get to publish stuff. So all those I can send links to you. By all means, you can share it with your viewers. So I like to write. I'm not a writer, or rather, I bypassed all those writing days. I'm very fast with keying in stuff.
Right.
I don't think I've ever written essays unless it was for something for the school magazine or something. It was handwritten, but otherwise everything went into the desktop.
Do you write every? Do you write every day?
If I have to, there'll be some option or the other, some loophole. I won't say loophole. Some chance for me to write something about something. I write about it. And there is a online women's magazine which has been publishing some of my work. Usually it is largely text and maybe 1 or 2 pictures. Sometimes it's a photo documentary. It's a whole lot of pictures and text. So it's like that. I recently published one on Kerala. I did a brief trip to Kerala. I went to Fort Kochi and the Alapura backwaters. So I wrote about that with many of my pictures. I can most definitely will be happy to share that all.
Very nice. Do you have any favorite authors?
Authors. I grew up reading thrillers. The Earl Stanley Gardner, the Arthur Conan Doyle the classics were all done with school, right? School was where I picked up. I used to read a lot of Arthur Conan Doyle, Richard Crompton, people like that. 2 or 3 names come to mind. Those are all in school. Then I got into the thriller habit. Again, thankful to my father. He was an avid reader. We had thousands of books at home in a room upstairs. So he wanted to go and sell it in Moore Market. They are not prepared to offer anything. Till a friend of my father said, why don't you start a library? What a great collection. And my father started a library at home called Book Bank, right? And that name was suggested by me, called Book Bank, right? And we ran it as a family. We ran the library for several years, a lending library. So I had the best choices of thrillers, Mickey Spillane, James Hadley Chase, Tom Clancy, you name it, all those big authors come to mind. And I've read them all threadbare. James Hadley's Chase, I read it from, I think he published about 65, 70 books. I've read all of them. Perry Mason, I've read all of them. Mickey Spillane, J.T. Edson, Zane Grey, Westerns, all I read. Right? I had access to all that. So I used to read. I never used to. And those days, we were limited to entertainment. We didn't even have a TV at home, and TV came later on. See, the most you turned on the radio or go out and played with friends, right? Otherwise, there were books. So you read. See, now there is an information explosion all over the world. You don't have nobody even reads today.
Correct.
Right. And people said, why don't you go buy Kindle? I said, no. There's nothing like picking up a book, going through the pages, putting a bookmark there, going to sleep, waking up and picking up from where you left off. That will remain with me. I don't have a Kindle. I don't have a Kindle. I'll never have a Kindle.
Jeff Bezos, I don't know what he'll think.
I don't care about him. I'm sure he also.
I'm just saying, that he must be so proud that he has actually done that. And there is one thing else not read it.
No, I'm not. If somebody wants to buy something in Kindle, go ahead. I like to. I'm an old world person in many ways. I'm modern, still an old world person. I like to read from books. And what you see behind me is a fraction. There are books in every room.
Right. And there is a joy of holding the book and reading it. That's a completely different thing. So that takes me to your next passion, which is music. Musician, singer, guitarist. Do you write your own songs? How do you get the time? What inspires you in the area of music? Did you learn music formally?
I'm self-taught. Like I said earlier, I got a guitar in the morning. The evening I was playing very basic tunes on one string. The guitar has 6 strings, but I was playing notes on one string, which meant I was already discovering the layout of the guitar. What is the guitar? 6 strings, 22 frets. So 22 into 6, that's the kind of combinations of notes you can create in music, right? Like the sitar or the veena or any other instrument. So the string instrument is the guitar. What fascinated me about the guitar was simply the stage presence. I used to be enamored by Western stage bands, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and so on and so forth. And I wanted to emulate them. It was an inborn interest. Like I said, I self-taught. I did go to a school to learn music theory and grammar. It was short-lived, about for a year or so. But otherwise, I relearned it again. And recently in the learning center where I worked, I was teaching some 2-3 years back children learning to play the guitar with sheet music. And believe it or not, everything was coming back to me. When you teach children something with a book, then you realize some familiarity creeps up, and then I was relearning again. So it's like that. So what inspires me to learn guitar was first listening. It's not that I learned to play the guitar without listening to music. I'm a great music fan. Everybody in the house is a music fan. So listening to music, sooner or later, you either want to sing or you want to emulate an instrument. And
So I have a small request, if it is possible for you. Can you sing a small song for us?
Sure thing. I'll bring the guitar.
Yeah.
This is my one among my 8 or 9 guitars. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Could be a song that you composed, or it could be anybody else's song.
I have not composed song. This is I'll sing the first 2 verses of a song called Streets of London, written by a musician called Ralph McTell. And this is one among my favorite songs, which I play all the time. Have you seen a man in the closed down market, picking up the papers with his worn out shoes? In his eyes, you see no pride, and usually at his side, yesterday's papers telling yesterday's news. So how can you tell me you're lonely? Say for you, the sun don't shine. Let me take you hand and the streets of London. Show you something that may change your mind.
Very nice. My God.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, when you sang, this is not the full volume on which you sing, right? You probably...
Usually it's mic'd, so it's not the full volume. It's maybe if I'm singing live on the terrace to some friends or the party happening or something.
Right.
Different
I
thing.
understand. Absolutely. Now that takes me to writing for children. You spoke a little bit about that, right? Some time ago, you also used an expression called, these are the building blocks that I am made of. Okay. So which are the building blocks that will always continue? Do you dream about publishing a book?
All those, my building blocks are basically, if my human body is comprised of, say, building blocks, then music is one of them, photography is one of them, target shooting and DIY and collecting watches and bird watching, they're all building blocks.
But there are also new additions to the building blocks, right? It's
as and when they creep in, nothing new has crept in off late.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Nothing new has crept in off late. What I'd like to do off late, I'll say earlier on it was photography. In those days, I was only so keen on wildlife photography because all the time traveling with my camera.
Yeah.
That sort of the curtains came down on wildlife photography. I became a wildlife observer. I'm using my binoculars more often. Simply because I told myself, you see one tiger, if you see the Tadoba tiger, you see the one in Rantham, both they look the same. The tigers kind of thing. Okay, they're two distinct tigers, but I was not getting into tiger mania. So I branched off from taking wildlife pictures to taking pictures of people. Like I said, human condition is so infinitely variable. So this is what I like to do in my website. I think I shared the link with you.
Yes.
There is a gallery called Being Human. I turned human being around and called Being Human, and where all my people pictures are there. And I think you should go through that.
Right.
If you go through that gallery, then you will know the real me. All those pictures are perceived, visualized by me because what was happening in my head. So, So this is the real me. Now, if you want to know whether I published my book, I have no intentions of writing a book unless it's going to be my memoirs. Maybe I'm telling myself not so old enough. I'm maybe 67, moving on 68, but I have a heart of a 22-year-old. And believe me, this is what everybody should know. It is all these interests, multiple interests, which is keeping me young.
Yes.
It keeps me young because I'm in touch with all this.
Correct.
These interests will never let me grow old.
Absolutely.
Right? And another thing which I tell people is that they ask me, sir, are you retired? I said, look, I may be retired from work. I will not retire from life because that's an unending experience.
Correct.
It's unending till the big day happens, whenever that is. I don't care when that happens, but maybe I'll pick up some new interests as well. Who knows? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I can pick up some new interests too.
Correct.
So writing I do now and then. I would love to share some of my excerpts with you. Those books, not books, but photo essays or essays which I've written. I'll share that to you by and by. You, by all means, you can publish them or you can share them with your friends. There's a online women's magazine which is taking regularly my work, which seems to be popular.
Yeah.
Like that. So coming back to building blocks, I am these so many interests is what I am made of. Like I said, I am thankful to you because no one has ever put me on this pedestal before.
Right.
Just people have just taken me for granted. They know, okay, Rags is capable of this, he's that, he's that, blah, blah, blah. To an extent where they probably find me very boring, you know, right? Maybe those people have got some kind of inferiority complex.
Yeah.
But they've taken me for granted. Last night I met this neighbor on the beach. He said, Rags, what are these, you know? My husband and I only discuss about you. It's only when people talk about it, I realize that, oh yes, I have achieved quite a lot. And I have not achieved any of this. All my interest was not to impress anyone. All these interests were only to impress me. Right. I'm the best judge of what I do.
Right. Wonderful.
As long as I tell myself I'm capable of doing this, and this, good enough. I don't go around town, I'm this, I'm that.
Right.
You're the only one who's actually putting me on this pedestal. Even at the school I worked, they absorbed me as a facilitator simply because of all these interests. But they were all, yes, due thanks to the school called Quest. But they were all slaughtered in various zones. But you are giving me one window to talk about all this, and I'm ever grateful to you.
Right. As you were speaking, I remembered a song called "You Will Never Grow Old." I don't know who sang it. I forget the name of the person. Well, that's the thing that I get as you're talking about it. This business of getting old is not physical; it's mental. Right. That's the sense I get from what you're saying. So. If you were to just use one single sentence to describe yourself, how would you describe yourself as a person, as an individual?
Be different.
Hmm?
Be different.
Be different.
Non-conformist.
So that's your attitude. Be different.
Be different.
Don't be a conformist.
Conformist, yeah. That's what it.
So you can't put me in a box.
Out of the box.
Yeah.
Out of the box. Don't fall into a rut.
Right.
School education, marks. See, unlike many families we know, largely South Indian families, where the children are being pushed into scoring 100 out of 100. Nowhere did my parents ever insist on that. If we came back with I got a 50 out of 100 in math, my father would say, okay, try to do better next time. That's all. He never pushed me into getting 100 out of 100 or looked down upon me because I did 50.
Correct.
Because he knew all of us, me, my brother, my sister, were capable of other better things in life. Simple.
Absolutely. I think it's amazing. That makes a lot of difference the way in which we think of ourselves, because the family has been so, let's say, understanding, supportive, you know, all that makes a lot of difference, definitely. One last question, which I want to ask you. If you got an opportunity to rewind your life and start all over again, what will you retain from your current life?
I will retain just about everything which I've accomplished so far, I've achieved so far.
Okay.
I have multiple interests and I've excelled in each one of them. I'm proud of the fact. I don't gloat about it, but I'm proud of the fact that I've excelled. I didn't pick up this, after 3 days, find it boring, pick up that. No. Everything I picked up was all pre-visualized. If I learned to play the guitar, it was not for a one-night stand kind of thing. It was because I wanted to play guitar for the rest of my life. So to answer your question, if I had to rewind my life, I'll be probably doing all of this all over again and not make the same mistakes I did then, because every interest which I have has a learning curve.
Okay.
Has a learning curve. Music has got a great learning curve, especially guitar has got a deeper learning curve. If somebody, so many people come and say, Rags, my son wants to play the guitar. My first question is, does your son want to play the guitar, or do you want your son to play the guitar? That's important. Right? That's important, isn't it? No. He only said, okay, fine, send him to me. Then I asked the boy, why do you want to play the guitar? He'll be flummoxed. He won't know what to say. I said, have you considered playing the keyboard? No, uncle, guitar. I said, tell you what, the guitar is a difficult instrument to learn. If you learn the keyboard for the first 6 months, learning guitar is easier. Why? The keyboard is also a visual instrument.
Right.
The black and white keys are there.
Correct.
The low keys here, the middle keys here, and the high keys there. The black keys and the white keys. This will teach you the rudiments of music. You will learn the layout of the keyboard with a simple keyboard. Then you can learn guitar easily. So usually some of the children flunk the first test itself because they don't want to learn the guitar. Because in today's world, it is instant gratification, like cell phone photography. You click a button, you get a picture.
Right.
So the child, I'm not criticizing children, but the child or the parent wants the child to be a musician same evening. Not possible. Everything requires a learning curve. And a lot of interest, attitude, aptitude has to come from the individual. And by and large, when parents come and say they want their child to learn guitar or keyboard or whatever, I tell them, does your daughter want it or do you want your daughter to? There's a difference there. If you do what your daughter wants to do or something like that, then she may not excel in that because you are the one who have a motive, ulterior motive. So she's the one who's important. So that's something, that is how musicians are made. If 100 people learn to sing Carnatic music, 2 prosper. Because they are the ones who took it to a definitive end.
Yeah. So the sense of what I get is that you're pretty happy about what you have done, what you have achieved in your life. But you're not smug about it, right?
I don't have a reason to.
Yeah, no, the thing is that you're still open to learning new things. You're still like a sponge willing to absorb new things as they come. So your antenna are up. That's the sense I get. Would that be a fair description?
Yes, of course. It is trying to pick up new things from life. I mean, there are little things, like I say, little things which happen. I don't know if I am at a point in life where I can completely develop a new interest, like learning karate. I want to be a black belt. I don't know if I can do that. I can do that. I'm happy with what I have, and that's good enough, and that's enough to keep me going.
Right.
But I tell my wards, the children, never forget this. Today you learned something which you did not know yesterday. It could be a little thing, and it's ever evolving. Make sure what you learned today, you don't forget. You apply it for tomorrow as well. Tomorrow you'll be learning a little nuance or a subtlety which you never realized the day before. And keep your eye open for that. And be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of what you're learning. So this is how you sort of work your way up in life. And today, if I am here as a contented, happy individual, because it's all these interests. I worked hard as professionally. I am happy as a family. Our son was doing well, and I'm sort of self-made. I have nothing else to worry about. I'm enjoying a sabbatical till I get another opportunity to do something else with my life. And that's it.
So one final question, okay? Yeah. This just popped up in my mind, so I must ask you this question. So typically, when we go to a wedding or a party or we meet somebody says, "What do you do?" Right? Now, if I say I'm in advertising, that's not what I do. I'm in advertising. So how would you answer it? Because you have so many things. So if somebody says, "Rags, what do you do?" So what is your answer? What will you answer?
Very good question. When people ask me, "What do you do?" they want to know what I'm doing as a career, what I'm doing professionally. Yeah. So I tell them, when I was in IT, I am in multinational IT. That's what I don't talk about my interests. Yeah. I don't talk about my interests. Or they'll think I am boasting. I don't talk about my interests. I'm in IT. The last 5 years I was with the school. I'm a facilitator at a school. Sort of ends there. What school? And sort of talk more about the school. Let them come to know the real me eventually. I don't like to. I can't say I collect scale model motorcycles, I collect watches and all. This is only a interest. People don't. Maybe that is the kind of answer they are expecting. But by and large, the context is what do you do means what do you do professionally? What do you do as a career? Okay. I am to the point and end with that. Unless that person is asking me through a reference. Now, for example, if you are introducing me, Sridhar, to another friend of yours at a common gathering or a get-together, you've already loaded up your friend saying, look, this I'll introduce you to a person called Rax and he's this and he's this and this and this. You probably won't even talk about what I am professionally, but you tell him about, you've given him all the data about what I do otherwise. And the person will come and say, very often it has happened, what do you do, Rax? I work as a facilitator at school when I was working. But I came to know your other interests. Yes, of course, I'm a photographer. Yeah. You're a good musician, a good photographer. Yes, I do all of this kind of thing. Same things. When do you find the time? Frankly, between you and me, candidly speaking, sometimes I find it embarrassing. At a wedding situation, somebody, you have so many interests, talk about it. And I really don't have the maybe I have the time, but I don't want to sound like I'm shooting my mouth off and gloating or boasting about it.
Right.
So I keep things low key because, like I said, I'm a very unassuming person, very, very low key person from the beginning. It is Suguna who we are in constant touch with on our email group. We have an active email group down the road, and I contribute whenever I can, wherever I can fit in to that email group. And one day she sends a mail saying, Rax, is there anything which you don't know? So it's only then I realized, oh, this is something new angle to it. So that's when she introduced me to you. It's like that. I'm largely a low-key person. I stay under the shadows and I have a handful of friends, and that's about it.
This is the question I always struggle with. So I thought I'll get some tips from you. That's why I asked you this. Where, for instance, if somebody asks me, what do you do? I'm a consultant. What do I say? I mean, that stops the conversation. So that's why I thought I'll get some clues from you in terms of how one can tackle that question. So is there any question that you wish I had asked, but I have not asked?
I think we've covered the entire gamut of what I am. We've been through writing, photography, music, watches, scale model, motorcycles, shooting. When I pick up some new interest, you'll be the first to know.
Okay.
We've been through, I have very little more to add to what I've already done. My advice is to any educators or educationists who are going to be listening into this, that if you are working in conventional regimental schools, ensure you teach a whole lot of other things to children as well. Just maths, algebra, trigonometry, and this and biology and all that. And 100 out of 100 is not you are making a machine out of the child. The child is only taught to become a robot. It's like you're putting in a coin and you crank out a graduate. This is how it is. That should not be the attitude at all. Ensure, try to sit with the child, with a child. If you have a class of 30 children, start with one child. Ask the child what he or she wants to do.
Right.
Ask the child, look, this is what we are learning every day. Which of these would you like to ask? Which of these would you like to progress with? Apart from this, what else would you like? Oh, I like henna. Great. Okay. I like watercolor painting. Put all that down. And then you ensure that you give this child that kind of education. It can be after school, or talk to the parents, get the child going to I don't know if there's a henna school or a watercolor painting schools. Yes. Get the child into that. I mean, don't treat your child as a commodity. This is for education. Just because they're paying fees, 30 children sitting in front of you, blah, 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 blah. Listen, you as a teacher, you're only teaching them what is there in the textbook. As a teacher, you don't know everything. Understand? You're only a facilitator. You don't know everything. You're also going with the textbook. The knowledge comes in the textbook. You're teaching Mr. Teacher or Miss Teacher. You don't know everything. So ensure you give importance to the child. Make sure the child chooses what he or she wants to learn.
Right.
And not simply saying, yeah, English, math, this, that. If the child doesn't want to do math, ask the child what else he or she wants to do. Okay. If he or she may be interested in something else. Like Einstein is such a great mind. I'm nowhere compared to Einstein, but I can take better pictures than Einstein, right? So intelligence is very, very individualistic. right?
Yeah.
He's clever in something, I am clever in something else.
Right. Right.
So as a teacher, identify what the potential of your child and make sure you nurture your child in that direction. He or she will be a better person. What are we teaching our children? Teaching them to be functional. We are not teaching them to be graduates.
Right.
Anyone can become a graduate and wear the cap on the head. No. You need them to, you're releasing them, you're freeing themselves into a wide new world where they'll be facing new challenges, professional challenges, career challenges, and so on and so forth. You have to guide them towards that.
That's right.
In a career or in a profession, a child will do well where he or she enjoys what she's doing, not where she's forced to do what she's doing.
Correct. Wonderful. Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic summation. Anything else, Rags?
That's about it, Sridhar. Anytime you would like to give me a call, give me a call. You can have this conversation going.
We'll do that. Definitely. I'll be in touch with you. This is one of the most interesting conversations I've had.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Once I get your, the pleasure is mine, the pleasure is ours. And once you send the recording, then I will edit it in sections, so that people get to see it in bunches of, let's say, 15 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
So it's easy for them to see it. We'll title it all.
It is still recording. I have to figure out where all this has been saved.
Yeah. So you can send me the recording through a link or something like that, then I will get on to the editing part of it.
Sure.
But I think I feel absolutely thrilled that I got a friend for life. Beyond this interview, I will be in touch. Absolutely.
The feeling is mutual. Is mutual, Sridhar. Whenever you come to Chennai, you know where to drop in. I will do that when I come to Mumbai.
Yeah, definitely, sir. Definitely.
Incidentally, Suguna and I live on the same road. That's how. That's how we also know you, sir. But I told you, ours goes back several years when my sister was with S.H. Benson.
Right.
And I think either Chandra or Suguna was with Benson. That's how they met and grew up. And they became friends. And then my photography guru and mentor was Mr. K.P. Balaji, the late K.P. Balaji, also my sister's boss when she was in Benson.
Right.
I'm in touch with Balaji's son, who is now living in Australia.
Okay. I worked in Benson. That's how I came to know Suguna. KP Balaji was there when I was there. And we lost him in the tragic accident.
I can understand.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Since I'm the host, I will end the meeting. Find that recording. It is still recording as far as I can say.
Right.
And I'll have this link sent to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. See you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.